Folks, welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name's Jordan Dahl.
I am Nate Balding.
I am Roger Norquist.
And today's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by Monstroca Cola presents Mountain Don't. You've done the do, now do the don't. Mountain Don't from Monstroca Cola. What the fuck? So who wants to go first?
I think I'm gonna jump on the speaking skull, take that first radiation hit as I open the box. You know, it's my turn to absorb a little bit of rads.
Sure. I like how whenever somebody opens the speaking skull box in a dark room, we get to see their skull for a second.
Yeah.
It's like those old green Altoids where if you bit on them in a dark room, they spark.
Or they're supposed to spark, yeah.
Yeah, they do. It's
the
real.
mint boys.
Yeah, very strange stuff. But absolutely, Roger, take the speaking skull out. If you'd like, you can
it's
rub
out
it with some of that mineral oil.
I'm rubbing the mineral oil on it. I'm bouncing it on my knee.
Nice.
It's
burp.
chittering.
Huh, it did a little burp.
And I'm going to share with y'all something that I'm not sure we've talked about in some time. I'm talking Spanish UFO sightings from the 70s. This is a crazy decade in Spain. Starting in
Massive flap.
Dude, crazy massive flap.
Does this include when it was over the soccer stadium or something?
No, that was Italy.
Well,
And that was the day the UFO stopped play.
Oh, that's right.
And I do believe a strange angel hair-like fiber was just spread across.
Damn, good memory, Raj.
Not smoking has really helped my memory. Not all of it, though. Some of it is genetic.
Yeah, it's really helped mine too, Daniel.
I'm getting this from a number of sources. I first found it on Reddit under the post from Humanoid Encounters. 12th of November, 1976, Talavera Le Real, Air Force Base, Spain. Soldiers see a UFO, then fire machine guns at a 3-meter tall, green, glowing humanoid figure. And that's when I was like, this is my segment.
Yeah. So this is when the day the aliens met Rambo.
And the Reddit post goes into it a little bit, but the sources that it has for its little article in Reddit is deep. And I'm going to go to what I thought was one of the better put together ones from UFO Insight. The Talavera Le Real Air Force alien incident, one of many 1970s Spanish UFO encounters, from Marcus Loth.
Marcus Loaf?
Marcus Loth. TH.
Okay.
I'm sorry it wasn't the funnier one.
It's okay. I'm still keeping my eye on you, Marcus.
Cheesebot has said Massive Flap is my drag name.
That's a really solid drag name.
Marcus Loaf? That's a very
I will be
good
seeing you
drag
next
name.
season on Drag Race with that one.
Marcus Loaf. Yeah, this is gonna be when Drag Race does a Werewolf Radar specific references season.
In Marcus's own words, according to an account that appeared on the According to an account that appeared in the February 1978 edition of Flying Saucer Review, that is specifically volume 23, number issue 5.
Okay, I remember.
A case of paralysis during an apparent UFO and alien encounter occurred on the 12th of November, 1976 at Talavera Le Real Air Force Base in Badajoz, Spain, near the border with Portugal. I actually have a poorly done map so we can see the location of this. little thing. And we got Portugal, we got Spain, which is the same color as water. So it was very confusing thinking these cities were in water. But I figured it out eventually after 10 minutes.
Just staring at it, blood running out of your nose.
But here we have it, like right on the border there.
Yeah.
Like it's a regular Toronto. Is that a border city?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Ish. Yeah.
A Niagara Falls. I believe that's a better border town.
Niagara.
I know nothing of the northern border. I'm so sorry.
You're doing great. You're doing great. Let's put this geography test on the fridge.
Thank you, Dad.
A C+ is good.
The incident was not only witnessed by 3 military personnel, but also resulted in severe health problems for one of them. It also featured the apparition and disappearance of a strange glowing humanoid entity, one that appeared to defy logic, physics, as it faced the barrage of military fire from soldiers involved.
Physics twice. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy out there in space, man.
Defies logic and physics twice.
During the 70s, as we shall examine, particularly the mid to latter part of the decade, UFO sightings in Spain were almost a regular occurrence, with sightings being witnessed by people in the street as they went about their daily lives. To airline pilots...
No, I'm not cheating on you. I'm constantly being attacked by aliens.
You don't understand, honey. I gotta go to Seville Street. It's not because Maria lives there. That's where I see the UFO.
It's just a coincidence. That Maria? Is that where she lives?
I didn't even know.
What a turd.
Normal people are seeing it. We got it's basically the whole lineup that we have here in America still, to where you got normal people, airline pilots who are really used to seeing things in the air. Everybody's seeing this shit in the late 70s. Crazy time to be a Spaniard.
It's the Maria High Club. I fucked that up, but
we all understood.
I was still trying to do the math. I was giving you the benefit of the dart. See, we all do it.
Benefit of the dart. That's what it was.
Now, on the 12th of November,
oh, we're having fun.
On the 12th of November at 2 a.m., 2 Spanish soldiers, Jose Maria Trejo and Juan Carrizosa, were on sentry duty at the fuel stock zone.
Hang on, this just in.
That
part's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were on sentry duty at the fuel stock zone when they heard a strange sound that immediately caught their attention. They would describe it as a typical radio interference-like sound,
whoa,
which suddenly changed to an acute, penetrating whistle.
Weird.
And it was so piercing that it caused them significant pain in their ears.
Well, I mean, was it piercing or was it penetrating? Because one is hot and one is not.
Very true. Each was now alert to the real possibility of an intruder and so began to scan their surroundings. The whistling sound continued for around 5 minutes before suddenly coming to a stop. They would undertake a search of the perimeters, not finding anything untoward and no signs of a breach of security. However, moments after this patrol was carried out, the bizarre whistling sound began once more. They would describe this second whistling as so sharp and so penetrating, so we're on the hotter side right now, that they feared it would drive them mad.
Ooh.
And that their eardrums were going to be ruptured.
Good Lord.
Once more, the ear-pissing whistling sound continued for around 5 minutes before suddenly ceasing. This time, however, when the sound came to a stop, a bright light was immediately visible overhead, lighting up a large part of the ground below. This unnerving glow lasted for around 20 seconds before it vanished, sending the area back into darkness of the early morning hours.
Huh.
Shortly after this, a third soldier, a Jose Hidalgo, joined the two bemused men outside. Is bemused the right word there for people suffering a penetrating ear attack?
Yes, I don't, and I don't think I've ever really understood the word bemused.
No, and we'll leave it there. Listeners,
I gotta look it up. Unless one of you can tell me.
Listeners, you guess what bemused means in the comments of our YouTube video, and one day we'll suss it out.
Surely Nate knows. He's quite well read.
You know what? It could be what they actually meant.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to continue in ignorance. I'm going to resist looking this up. Like we used to do in the 80s, where we would just walk around sure of false.
Well, this would be if they're not as I would assume they should be horrified.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of like, you know what's funny? Aliens.
So we got a third one coming, and this one, the soldier Jose Hidalgo.
That's a cool fucking name, by the way. Cool soldier.
Had a military Alsatian guard dogs with him.
Alsatians.
Ah, yes.
Thank you.
That's the kind of dog that I have. Harmony, get in here. They're talking about you. That's a German Shepherd. I'm going to tell you this tidbit because it's kind of hilarious. The term Alsatian is what British people call German Shepherds because they stopped calling them German Shepherds during the war.
The Falkland War?
No, World War II. It was kind of a freedom fries, but for dogs.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we know what side this writer's on.
Yeah. At least with the Brits, they're still holding on to it for some reason.
Is it Dunkirk?
Probably that, and probably the genocide and the carpet bombing of London, and we could go on.
I'm on the French side, to where the British need to apologize what they did to the French Navy during World War II.
What'd they do?
Destroyed them. Nazis were invading France.
All of our peanut butter.
Nazis were invading France, so the British response to this was get all British people out of France, and then at the same time destroying the French fleet so the Nazis couldn't take a hold of it, while French people were trying to flee the Nazis on said boats.
We're going to climb up into the treehouse and cut the rope ladder. How does that sound to everyone?
So
I'll always just be on the side of Albert Camus.
And sometimes you gotta kill a man on a beach.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta do it.
Fuck.
And then go to prison for that.
Yeah.
So he had some dogs, this Jose, who joined the other two soldiers.
Hidalgo. You're leaving out the best part of the name. Hidalgo.
Jose
sounds like a daytime TV. Oh, it's a different Jose.
Well, no, Jose Trejo's there, Juan Carrizosa Sosa, and Juan Hidalgo, or Jose Hidalgo.
Huh.
Jose Hidalgo has the Alsatian,
yeah.
and he also saw this magnificent glow and was preparing to conduct a tour of the perimeters of the base. The two soldiers agreed to join him, and on their way, they made their way to a small hut where the guards and the corporal slept. They would wake Corporal Pavon and inform him of the potential situation unfolding. Then all of them would the colonel or the corporal would immediately order a full search of the area, which the 3 soldiers would undertake themselves. As they set out, the entire area was completely silent and still once more.
Spooky.
In their searching of the perimeters, the search was quiet and uneventful. In fact, 3 soldiers took a certain amount of solace from the fact that the guard dog was so calm and far from worked up. However, as they were approaching the next sentry box on their search, things changed. They noticed a whirlwind of sorts begun around them. Bizarrely, only seeming to affect the area where the soldiers stood. The sudden wind made them reach for and load their rifles.
Whoa.
Each stood as still as possible, their eyes darting around the areas for signs of an intruder. Then, the sound of breaking branches reached their ears. They would unleash the guard dog, who immediately ran toward the area where the noise came from.
Bosco, no!
The soldiers waited and watched the area the dog had run to, expecting to hear barks and snarls when it located whoever or whatever made this sound. However, they heard silence. A short time later, the dog came back toward the group. The men immediately noticed how the animal appeared spooked and frightened, and appeared to stagger as if it was sick.
Oh, sweetie.
They would eventually manage to coax the guard dog into investigating the area several times more.
No, don't do that. Sorry, I have fully replaced this dog with my dog at this point.
And that's the energy I feel as well. I don't like this. And every time it came back, it would whimper and circle around them like it was trained to do to indicate danger.
I mean, I guess.
Are they battling a witch?
Yeah, where's Nick Cage?
Needless to say, this only raised the levels of alertness and anxiety in the 3 men. After several moments, one of the soldiers called out in an attempt to get a response from whoever was hiding in the shadows, but at this point, the guard dog had begun to snarl at the unseen presence.
Oh, jeez. She's snarling.
Then something changed once again.
Oh, God. If this dog gets hurt, I'm going to burst into tears.
Yeah, I don't like this. Where this is headed.
But we know where it's gonna head. They're gonna go Rambo on this shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Something in the darkness behind them.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
Rambo's not a good movie.
look.
I mean, it's a good movie. But
any movie you kill cops is a good movie.
Nobody, very few people in Rambo are having a great time. I understand what you're saying. Of all of the movies where it's like, if you could be in one movie for one day, very few people are like, Rambo, I want to be pursued.
I would go Rocky IV before that.
Yeah. Rambo's a bad time for everyone.
Now, Trejo experienced a bizarre sensation that there was someone behind him. In fact, he was so spooked that cold shivers went right through his stomach. At the same time, he noticed the glow of a green light in his peripheral vision.
Whoa.
Automatically, he turned to face the green glow. In front of him, at the height of around 3 meters, was a humanoid figure at an approximate distance of 50 feet.
Whoa.
At this point, the other 2 soldiers had also turned to face the strange scene. One would later recall that the strange figure seemed to be made up of many different small points of light. They would further describe it as having extremely long arms and a small head in comparison to its body. It also appeared to wear some kind of helmet. Although all of the soldiers felt sure the figure was on the ground, none of them could recall seeing its feet or legs. Almost as if its lower body had none. It was just kind of a floating humanoid. Trejo, who was by far the nearest to the figure, was at first unable to move through shock and fear. Then, after gathering his thoughts, he raised his rifle and prepared to shoot. However, before he could pull the trigger, he found himself unable to move. What's more, a piercing weakness permeated his body. He would later recall that this sensation only began when he tried to press the trigger of his gun. Almost as if this thing could guess his intentions and was stopping him.
Scary.
He felt himself falling to the ground. Before he did so, he shouted at his fellow soldiers, "Down! They'll kill us!" And with that, Trejo fell face first to the ground, now unable to speak and having seeing problems.
Whoa.
Behind him, though, Carriososa and Hidalgo were preparing to
Hidalgo
fire.
will save us.
The two men behind him were preparing to fire their rifles, and they fucking did. As Trejo lay face down on the ground, the two remaining soldiers opened fire, later estimating that they both released around 40 to 50 shots between them.
Dang.
However, almost immediately after opening fire, the two men looked on in their amazement as the figure simply vanished into thin air. One of them describing it like a fading out of an image on a television screen. Within several moments, the figure had simply vanished. It faded away like an image on a TV screen. As Trejo laid face down, I already read that part. That's on me. I scrolled and lost my place. Once the entity was gone, the two men rushed toward Trejo to ensure he was not harmed. As they did so, the strange ear-piercing whistle sounded out once more, this time lasting for around 15 seconds. Now, although he was largely unhurt, Trejo had an intense bruising type of pain on his chest in his chest. And it would last for approximately 20 minutes before easing off, ceasing altogether. At this time, the entire base had heard these shots of the rifle. They're ready for war. Portugal's attacking. I assume that's why the base is there, just in case of Portuguese aggression.
Sure, yeah, at any point.
Know nothing of Spanish politics. Are they still friends or enemies?
Yeah.
I don't think about Portugal or Spain ever in my life, if we're being honest.
That's the only word that I know related to that topic.
Now, the whole base had heard the shots. They rushed outside, now ready to confront whatever intruder gained entry to the base. And the three men tried their best to explain what happened. As soon as the sun was coming up several hours later, a unit of around 50 men conducted a thorough search of the area. However, like always, there was no apparent evidence of an entity's presence to be found. And, interesting enough, not a single cartridge case was discovered in the area that the soldiers had fired their weapons.
That's weird.
Very weird. They fired at least 40 shots. There should be 40 cases. If you're unfamiliar with how guns work, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, you're our gun expert, kinda. You fire
I'll shoot you.
You fire a gun, the bullet goes forward in theory, the casing launches out.
It's ejected, yeah.
New ones loaded up. That's how most semi-automatic rifles work.
When was this happening? When was this taking place?
1976.
1976, yeah. I mean, yeah, we're fully within the modern era of that kind of weapons.
Later analysis of the men's rifles proved that they did indeed fire shots from these weapons. Now, even stranger, according to the author of this article, was the fact that not a single bullet mark was discovered.
And you're telling me none of these made a baby?
No. None of these bullets made a baby. So they were firing apparently from the dialogues here. They were firing. The creature was in front of a wall.
The dialogues.
From the script.
Is that not what this is?
Yeah.
Sorry, that hit me in a particular way.
According to these Socratic dialogues I'm reading from.
Hang on. Let me consult the archives. That's what I call it when I open a web site.
And it's now what I call it as well.
Hell yeah.
So
It's just me and Heidegger on this website.
there should have been bullet marks because they were firing into a wall. And this wall has nothing on there. Even although many of the shots should have hit the target, the two soldiers who fired the rifles were certain at least some of the barrage should have hit the wall. So they full on Rambo'd this, firing from the hip.
Yeah.
Just spraying down whatever was in front of them. Or at least that's what they were trying.
It drew. Yeah.
The base found nothing. Base superiors were told, utterly mystified as to what happened during this incident. And truly, that's where I'm going to leave us. This is going to be probably a three-parter.
That's a
2
heater,
parts on this incident, and then a third part on getting us to what we have talked about before, the Michelin Man sighting.
Oh, yeah.
That's all part of this. Like, I know we're all familiar with the Michelin Man sighting, but we never really discussed everything that happened before it, and that's what we're doing for the next few weeks, lady and gentlemen. I assume we got one lady.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, Chadette. Because our listener's named Chad.
Yeah. And of course, the lady opposite him would be
Chadette. Yeah.
And it's just him dressed up Bugs Bunny style, like a lady. Yeah.
Tricks me every time.
Her. Okay.
Anyway.
May I take the skull?
Take the skull, my good amigo of Paranormal.
It is apportating in front of me. It still has the flesh on. Oh, there it goes. It peeled away, ghost-like. Terrifying. Well done, speaking skull. I will place my hand on it. And now I'm gonna start talking like this.
Oh my.
I've just come back. I'm back from Scotland, lads. I've spent the last week in the Mitherland. And I went on a ghost tour. I went on a dark history tour, shall we say, of the city of Edinburgh. Y'all ever heard of Edinburgh?
I have, but every time it's said in a Scottish accent, I don't know what they're referencing.
Edinburgh.
I always wonder why they don't pronounce the GH.
Edinburgh. But they are. It's...
As we learned from last week's episode, there's no alphabet that's good for the Gaelic languages.
Right. It's they need a new set of letters. They need to figure out a new math. But yes, I hung out in Edinburgh. It's an incredible city. I could talk about it all day, but it's very, very old, medieval, and because of that, feels very creaky. Feels very, very haunted. There's a lot of just incredibly like old in the terms of like going back to like Roman occupation type castles, medieval type shit, and they used to call it Old Reekie. And you know why they called it Old Reekie? Because it smelled like shit. Because the whole city was very stinky, and they named a tourist company Old Reekie Tours. And we went on one of the Old Reekie tours, which was of the Edinburgh Vaults. Now, I'll describe what they are.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
Are we doing, is this a Scottish way of saying crypt?
They are crypt-like, but that is not what they were used for.
Okay.
So, I'll do my best to describe it.
I was thinking sewers.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's another good guess.
And y'all are both in the right place. If you were to suddenly wake up,
No, I think we're both in the wrong place, and you were too.
If you were to wake up in one of the vaults, you would probably at first be like, I'm in a crypt, and then you'd be like shortly after, I'm in a sewer, and then you would be wrong on both accounts. You are in what is there's these. I won't go into the history of it, but basically there was this long bridge built from one end of the town to the other end of the town for people to walk to market. It spanned like almost a kilometer, and it was built using consecutive arches. And so imagine a bridge with arching bottoms.
Good classic Roman engineering.
Truly, made all out of brick. And imagine putting another bridge right under that, which also had those arches. Then they put walls up either side of it, and those arches became vaulted areas within the bridge itself.
All right, this is fucking insane.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah, we don't get
bro.
this in America.
It's and like, so the idea was that these rooms were initially there to store goods that the merchants were going to sell at the market, but they quickly learned that they weren't very good for that because they're made out of limestone, and so like water started dripping in and ruined all of the goods. So they basically bricked it up and abandoned it, and people started moving in there. And in a really dark time, the 1600s, where
moving in.
Yes,
like purposefully.
Yeah, people started living in the vaults, and the vaults quickly turned into a secret crime city beneath an already pretty crimey city. And
that's almost super cool.
Yeah.
I bet it's not.
Yeah, it's all of these things and more.
What am I picturing? The place in Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Where that one guy is, and
His
then
name is Edgar Friendly. Why do I know that?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
And what's the one in Blade Runner? Heaven.
Oh yes, yeah.
I watched both of those movies recently. Phenomenally bad. Anyway,
Yeah. Sorry, I just got a text
Johnny
from-
Mnemonic would please like a cold Mexican beer.
Now that's one that everybody needs to watch, Johnny Mnemonic. So we've got this crime city, this Demolition Man style crime city beneath the already pretty crimey city. Bad shit's going on down there for a long time. People, I'll leave it up to the fine folks at Old Reekie Tours. If you're ever in Edinburgh, please go and take the vault tour, take any of those tours. It was really cool. Shout out to what was her name, Louisa, our tour guide. She did a great job. People were living down there and dying down there. They were living 30 to a room the size of the one that I'm in right now, and they were being stabbed and killed and eaten and murdered and forgotten and bricked up, and in some cases worse, down there in the darkness forever and ever. So a while goes by, they brick up the vaults, they forget about them for close to 150 years. They're discovered during some like private demolition in the 70s, and they're like, oh shit, the vaults, I've heard about these. And they start going back in there. The historical society takes an interest in it. They start giving tours and stuff like that, blah blah blah, up to today where I took a tour.
I'm not gonna lie, it seems like this is the perfect environment for the creation of a chud.
Yeah. The place was crawling with fucking chuds, Roger. I'm not gonna lie to you. Up to my ankles in chud water. So I have managed to find an account from someone at It's a personal blog from a guy named Dan Schauman. I did not reach out to him to see if we could read his story, but I'm crediting you. This was in March 12th of 2009. Check out his work, schauman.com.au, and you can also read this article that describes in detail, quite well, what was also described to me on my tour. You should still take the tour, but this was my favorite part, and I wanted to tell you guys about it. But I found this article that does a great job of getting me there. So, maybe cut out the part where I say that I didn't get permission. Anyway, so he goes on to say, our guide Luke arrived wearing a trench coat, carrying a walking stick, took us on the initial walk around the cold, dark alleyways, explained along the way how the booming population of Edinburgh mixed with the burden of man-made wall around its outskirts meant that the only way people could be housed was to build the city upwards. Of course, structural engineering was not the standard it is today, so it came to happen that the timber floors built above the one-story stone buildings eventually collapsed, killing a great many people and rendering the survivors homeless. In time to come, the governing body of the city conveniently declared that all homelessness be illegal, punishable by execution. Those who didn't want to face a beheading had no other choice but to live underground in the dirty, decrepit South Bridge walls.
What a fun way to deal with homelessness.
Yeah.
So our building standards have caused all these people to be homeless.
Don't even.
Let's also punish the survivors.
Hey, while you're in Edinburgh, go check out the People's Museum. And you'll hear a lot more about this and how eventually it sort of worked out for a lot of them, but not before many of them were turned into absolute soup under the boot heel of a society that actively hated them. The lifeblood of their city. Anyway, People's Museum, another one you should check out. I know nothing about what I'm talking about. They'll tell you better. So they lived in the vaults. Into the vaults we headed. We were situated within a long, wide corridor with 3 rooms built into the left-hand side. The first room was a room that is actually still in use today. Not anymore. This is actually not true anymore, but this was the story that we were told. The room that we were looking into, which was filled with Wiccan relics and ceremonial items and stuff, was in use by a group of local Wiccans who perform magic rituals in there. It was closed to public use, but you could see its full Wiccan setup in the dim light with its pentagram and wands hanging on the wall and a stone circle in the center. That's not true. There wasn't a stone circle in the center. There was just a circle in the center. The stone circle is later. That's what we're going to talk about. Just a little mistake from Schauman there. The second room, we were told, was the most haunted of the 3 rooms, according to many spiritualists who had studied the vault. This is where the famed poltergeist was supposed to have resided, a single entity consisting of the souls of those who passed away from the treacherous, disease-ridden conditions of years gone by. However, it was the third room towards the end of the corridor that interested me most. Same. However, let's talk about the second room for a minute. They didn't tell us that part. They told us about when we were in the second room about the horrible living conditions and a story about. Sorry, 1 second.
You're good. I'm gonna guess a story about a panda and a little dragon. Pandas just having recently been invented.
The previous year.
It's almost getting hot enough to where I start recording these with no pants.
Okay. So,
you've been wearing pants this whole time?
In the colder recording sessions, yeah, but when it gets warmer, I'm going full nude down below.
So yeah, horrifying conditions down here. They talked about how there was like a fire that like people were trapped in here while, I mean, you can only imagine.
Yeah.
So the third room, the Wiccans had actually chosen this particular room as their original venue for performing their rituals. They had set it up in a style much similar to that of the first room we encountered, with the pentagram and stone circle. However, All that remained today were the stones, encircling a few cold puddles of water that had dripped down from the ceiling above. So when we were, when we walked into this room, this room was completely dark. It was totally empty, and there was a circle of boulders in the middle of it. The woman told us, Louisa told us, when we walk into this next room, you're going to see a circle of stones. Don't step inside of it. That's because I want to make sure that you have you can make an informed choice of whether or not you want to step inside the circle after I tell you what I'm about to tell you.
She turns around and it's us three already in the circle going, oh.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I did not step in the circle, and then you're going to hear why.
Okay.
We were told that not long after the Wiccans, so we all walked in, we went around the circle, and we stood behind it while she kind of blocked the doorway and told this story. The Wiccans had actually chosen this particular room as their original venue for performing their rituals. They had set it up in the style of the chamber, blah, 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 blah. We were told that not long after the Wiccans commenced using this room, some very strange things started to happen. For example, objects within the room would move, the temperature would suddenly drop, then rise back up again. The water dripping from the ceiling would only drip within the circle itself and never form puddles on the outside. People started feeling strange sensations, as if they were being held back or choked. It was clear that the room was possessed by a highly negative energy. Eventually, the leader of the Wiccan group decided to camp overnight within the circle. There actually wasn't a circle at the time. He constructed a stone circle for the purpose of, camping out and performing a ritual to see what was happening, what was residing here. Who knows? They don't really know what he did because it didn't really work. Or maybe it did. Let's read on. So he was intending to perform some healing rituals in an attempt to ward away this unaccommodating, disturbing spirit. The night began without trouble. However, it wasn't long before the entity made itself apparent, and the Wiccan leader soon realized that he was fighting against something way beyond his own capabilities. After experiencing an agonizing discomfort and noticing scratches appear over his body, he fled the room and vowed never to set foot in it again.
Something happened.
So the way that it was told to me was that he was sitting in the circle and he was meditating, trying to make contact, appease the spirit, even just find out what it was, I imagine. And he heard something out in the hall of the vaults where he was currently meditating in the darkness where, hundreds of people died, whatever.
Nightmare fuel.
It sounded like something walking toward him. And he called out, nobody answered. Called out again, nobody answered. He walked out into the hall, and when he turned around to come back in, he heard this massive crack. And he looked up, and there was a crack running through the ceiling. The vaults had themselves cracked. And supposedly that was the beginning of like a horrifying night, like a long night of struggling with this entity and trying to defeat it, trying to cleanse the place, trying to do whatever he had to do. And supposedly they found him the next day, and this was like in the 70s, on the steps outside of the circle, like babbling, incoherent, like just in rough shape. And they got him out, and he never wanted to talk about what happened in there that night. But he apparently later said that whatever is in the vaults, he died. They shut down the temple. They locked the door. It became part of the tour. He said before he died that whatever is in those vaults is so dangerous and evil that no human should ever set foot in the vaults ever.
What about the Long Island medium? I believe she's got this.
And some people say that he didn't necessarily defeat whatever was down there. He trapped it inside that stone circle.
Yeah, it sounds like he actually just did a bunch of acid.
At which point, we were invited to step inside of the stone circle. We were told that you should walk out the way you come in because it's like opening and closing a door. We were told that people inside experience any number of things that sound like panic attacks, from panic attacks to, you know, scratches to feeling like they can't breathe, nightmares.
And I think a lot of that is stuff that people do to themselves.
Sure, I think you're probably right. But I think some of it might be something more. Let's read on, shall we?
Something definitely happened. So
at the conclusion of the story,
I'll give it that.
Luke invited us to take a step inside the stone circle. I did not. A couple of people did on my tour. Were they American? Did they seem like douchebags? I'll never say.
Wow. Okay.
It's a very specific description of someone you won't talk about.
My lips are sealed. Luke invited us to take a step inside the stone circle and experience the energy for ourselves, if we so dared. We were all gathered around the outside of the stones, and it was plain to see the effects of the storytelling had caused quite a lot of unease within the group. Luke confessed that on many occasions he has witnessed members of his tour groups either faint or begin losing their breath upon entering the circle. But that didn't stop two girls from our group bravely taking a step inside. I followed. I have no fear, and I wanted to get laid. Just kidding. That wasn't. We had a quick hug in the middle before stepping back out and confirming that we were all in fact okay. Nothing out of the ordinary happened, and neither of us felt any form of discomfort. We continued on with our tour, which concluded soon after in a pub, where we all had a drink and eventually parted ways. Now, it's completely understandable at this stage if you think the whole experience of being in a so-called, quote, haunted environment is a good example of human psychology accentuated by the theatrics of a few hair-raising tales about ghosts. But I haven't finished my story yet. It was well past midnight by the time I got back to my hostel room after the tour, so I got changed, went to bed, and had a nice peaceful sleep after a long day. I woke up fairly early in the morning, around 7:30ish, and did the usual stretch and the yawn thing that you do to encourage yourself to get out of bed. Scratched my head, wiped my eyes, and rubbed my hands down my face. It was then that I noticed blood on my hands.
Who did I kill?
I had a bleeding nose.
Oh.
I have not had a bleeding nose since I was about 9 years old. You can draw your own conclusions on this one, my friends, but in my mind, this was no coincidence. This was the work of a troubled soul giving me a warning for wrongly and selfishly entering its territory. And then they end this with a chant: thrice around the circle bound, evil sink into the ground. Thrice around the circle bound, evil sink into the ground. Thrice around the circle bound, evil sink into the ground. We cast you out. We brush you off. As smoke from our hair. That last part was me. So there you go.
That's a freaky one. That nosebleed one. As someone whose nose does not bleed, it would be weird if I entered a this is the wrong word, but a cursed stone circle, and then I wake up to a bloody nose. I would also put some thought into this.
Yeah, I would be taking that as a specific shot at me.
Straight up. I would take that the same way.
Effect, if you will. Yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think? Would you have stepped in the circle if you were there?
If there's two hot bitches in there and I'm trying to get laid, I am stepping in the circle.
Okay. He doesn't say that they were hot bitches.
Don't worry, I got low standards.
But that's just a writing critique, I suppose.
If it's
read between the lines
for impressing people, yes. Even my own lady who stopped being impressed by my threats to the paranormal, which I do in the middle of the night, you got to let him know, you know?
Sure.
That sounds so weird.
That sounds delightful to me. I imagine he's holding a gun, sure.
Come at me, ghosts.
Oh, you nasty thing.
He's all like,
Making sounds
Roger,
in the
go to
kitchen.
sleep. I have to work in the morning.
I'm practicing my combat roles. I've turned you into Dale Gribble for some reason.
He would also, I think he would not, but I'm jumping in the circle. I don't think I can be affected by such things, but I still want to experience said things. So I'm less afraid and trying not to be an American douchebag, but I kind of want to step in the circle, and I think I would. Nate?
I'd like to say that I would, because it seems like it'd be fun-ish.
It's an experience.
Nate, I think I believe you would too.
But I really don't. I don't think I want that experience.
I believe I kind of think of you as our tank, Nate.
Yeah,
all right,
for sure.
well, then I'm in the fucking circle.
But that also might just be because I associate you with JJ Good.
You know, our cleric tank, which we built a very weird party.
That's great. I can't wait to play again.
Wednesdays.
He's lawful evil.
Yeah, but he's a good tank. And I can imagine, I might have to draw some art of him battling a demon built out of the collective torture of thousands of innocent souls within a stone circle.
To be fair, I do have a decent chance of inflicting like 140 something damage.
I think you almost broke 200 one time.
Yeah. It's
Check us out, Wednesdays, Night Bastard. It's fun.
Yeah, he's a bad man.
My hot take, I didn't go in the circle, so we know I'm not brave. I think of myself as if you're the tank, I'm the cook. I make the beans.
You're the thief.
Keep us all farting. Yeah,
I
okay,
think you could do it, Jordan, but it's like that Mufasa line from The Lion King. He's only brave when he has to be.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
I think if you were asked to do it to protect your fiance, you would jump in that circle.
Oh, absolutely. And that would be as I've learned on a number of occasions, to my own detriment, I will jump before thinking in situations where I'm like, oh, I'll get hurt instead.
You're a human Mufasa.
I'll be meat. So my take on it is much like a Ouija board. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what's happening there, but it seems to work. And if even any of this is true, the vibes down here are so thick that I don't want to go poking at any membranes.
I feel like that's pretty accurate, though. Like,
yeah,
using a Ouija board, if anything starts to move, not of your own volition, guess what? You gotta stop.
Yeah.
Like, this is way too real.
Yeah. I've just heard so many stories that are like, it's something that nobody seems to understand, but it seems to every once in a while work real well. So I don't want this to be the time that I do get sucked through into the demon realm or whatever.
Yeah.
That people are never seen again. Same reason I don't step inside fairy circles. It's not that I don't want to. I'd love to. But once you go to the fairy realm, you don't come back. You dance forever.
Yeah, not until they let you.
And that's gonna be like 200 years later. You're not gonna know what's on television.
Oh boy, no friends, nobody to tell about this whole thing that just happened.
So there every asshole thinks that you just were asleep for 200 years.
You're so lazy. You slept for 200 years. That does it for my segment that I'm calling, hello? Who's that down there? Is anybody out there? Scotland's great. Love you, Scotland. Don't ever change. Take the tour. Aldreiki. We're Aldreiki heads now. Don't take my word for it. You got to go see it.
Should I get it tattooed on my forehead?
No. Please don't. You don't have any room for any more.
Yeah, I'm covered in facial tattoos. They're just the exact color of my skin, so you don't see them. But I got some curse words on my forehead, like poop and piss.
Hey, come on.
Sorry, PG show. My bad.
The P stands for piss. G stands for
gonorrhea.
Gonorrhea.
In a nightlight, they show up.
All right, Nate. I believe that the skull should be rolling your way.
It is. It is opening my door. I don't
over
like that.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
And it's closing it.
Yeah, you know.
And rolling up into my lap.
Oh boy.
Hi, Scully.
Just screams in your face.
Different Scully. So
Nate, you can't name the skulls. You can't name it. You know it's too hard when they turn on us.
And I can't think of a really good pun right now.
It's okay. We all felt the space where it would have gone.
I had a thing about dumpster diving ghosts, but I've been enjoying this book I have. I have Never Minded the Loneliness from Timothy Renner about hermits.
Oh.
So I thought I might read
Nice.
a couple things from this.
Hell yeah. You
Instead.
sent us a picture of this and it looked really interesting.
Yeah, it's very good.
Cool. I think I could herm.
And
I could be a hermit.
I definitely recommend it on the off chance that Renner's listening. Sorry, I'm just reading your stuff out loud.
Yeah.
We're also commenting on it, giving you some direction.
It's
Notes. We'll give you notes.
I think if anything, people are going to think, oh, well, maybe I should check that out.
Yeah.
So this first one that I want to do is The Emperor of the Rockies.
And this is the Rocky Mountains, right?
That's right.
And we had an emperor at one time?
We did. And we didn't even know it. During the gold rush, Arbor Villa, a mining village between Salida and Monarch, was home to 3,000 people. I do not believe this place exists anymore, because I've been to both Salida and Monarch many times, and never seen Arbor Villa.
We gotta dig up its grave. It's probably a proper ghost town. That would be a fun place to put a stone circle and then pray to an unholy god.
Well,
that's true. Once again.
Fun next sentence. By the 1930s, Arbor Villa had become a ghost town. The sole resident was Frank E. Gimlet, hermit prospector, a man one newspaper called the Emperor of the Rockies.
I love that.
So yeah, this
Frankie Gimlet.
And he's the only man that lives in this town.
And I'm the only man that lives in this town.
What's that fucking town that's just a gas station up in Wyoming?
Oh,
Buford or something. It's like proud to be like whatever the name is.
Yeah.
Population 1.
Funny.
Yeah, I have gotten gas there.
You got to.
Amazing. Got to. Absolutely. Got to support Buford or whatever.
Along with a series of trusty boroughs, each named Samson and given a Roman numeral to designate its order among the Hermits' beasts of burden.
Okay.
Gimlet had been working pick and shovel mines in Colorado since 1878. Which means that this guy was the only person there for a long time.
Yeah.
He claimed a porcupine named Minnie guarded his cabin when he was not around.
I fucking love this. He's my emperor for sure.
Do you want to see a picture of him with a lot of women?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one in this book, but please show me yours.
I want to see a picture of him doing absolutely anything. Look at this guy. Holy moly. Are these his many wives?
I don't know. That's just the first thing that comes up when you type in his name and then Emperor of the Rockies.
Not exactly, but you'll find out why that's the whole thing.
Oh, uh-oh. Emperor, what did you do?
In his younger years, Gimlet claimed his mine was worth $100,000. Which again, that would be like 1880s, so he's claiming he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
He related that his wife left, taking a measure of the gold with her. He spent his remaining gold on the quest to find another strike. Quote, "The prospector," he told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, "always knows the glory spot lies just another day ahead. That day stretches into a month, and the month into a year, and the year stretches into 40 years, but the glory spot is always just another day ahead." Which is maybe the most brutal thing I've ever read.
I think that's called a gambling addiction, but that wasn't a thing at the time.
The Salida Regional Library tells a different story regarding the hermit. The library reports that Gimlet was a business owner in Salida, maintaining both Colorado Wholesale Mercantile and, Gimlet Lumber and Supply Company. When his warehouse burnt down, he lost his interest in his business. No shit.
Yeah.
Abandoned his wife Gertrude and moved to Arbor Via.
Since the building burned down, I don't have a lot of enthusiasm for being a grocery store clerk. There's just no grocery store to clerk.
Gimlet had the look of a miner, with knee-high boots, a heavy beard, slouch hat, and his trusty pipe. His belt held a plug of tobacco and a leather pouch containing a pair of women's garters.
Go on. And if you got him drunk enough, you might meet his sister, the Empress of the Rockies.
On each of these garters was a $5 gold piece set in a fancy gold buckle. Gimlet had the fancy garters made for a woman in the early 1900s. She was, in his words, quote, "a lady friend who married the other fellow."
Aww.
And again,
that's a shame.
It feels like maybe there were only 3 people in this town.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was not the charming one.
Yeah. That's a shame. That's a shame.
All those other ladies would disagree. One more time, the photo.
The photo, please.
Well, that's from before.
Oh.
Gimlet made money not just from mining, but from selling photos of himself to tourists.
Selling photos of his feet on Instagram.
Oh, you're so close. He also wrote a series of booklets, a 9-volume set entitled Over Trails of Yesterday, Stories of Colorful Characters that lived, labored, loved, and died in the gold and silver West.
Like that.
The Hermit prospector filed a complaint against an irrigation company in 1939.
Nice.
He was looking for $3,640.62.
Incredible. Get that bag, King.
In back rental charges for the snow that laid on his claims.
Look.
And I didn't know that this was a thing.
It's not. This is some
But-
prospector chicanery.
This is prospector law right now.
Yeah, I think we might be entering the case of Rootin versus Tootin here.
Oh, no, we totally are. Because there's a fucking irrigation company that owned the rights to the snow
That's
that
crazy.
had covered Gimlet's claims. Which is like,
Okay, good luck, everyone.
I hate capitalism. Anyway.
It really turns us into
you know,
monsters, huh?
I've watched Chinatown a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm. Phenomenal
And-
film that has less to do with Chinatown than I originally thought upon first viewing.
Yeah, it almost has nothing to do with Chinatown.
Yeah. Forget
But
it. Jake.
boy, a lot of weird water right shit
Yeah.
that apparently it was absolutely happening.
Yeah. If there's a way to be crooked about it, man has done it time and time again.
In 1940, Gimlet made a much publicized trip to Washington, D.C. to, quote, find out what we're going to use for money.
Mr. President, I am the Emperor of the Rockies, and I wish to speak to you.
There's
And
a guy out here in a crown that he clearly made himself. Yeah, it's made out of gold, but he's like his hands are covered in burns. It looks like he's been working really hard on the crown. Do you want to just talk to him?
That's exactly what happened. The Hermit was determined to ask congressmen about the
What
difference
me
in
running?
stated value for silver at the U.S. State's Treasury
I love it.
versus what he was being
Dude.
paid for mined silver,
Get it.
as well as voicing his concerns about being paid in greenbacks. He didn't want
Greenbacks,
cash.
baby. What the hell is this? A piece of paper? I
For
need
his-
gold.
For
I'm
his
try-
gold.
I'm trying to make engagement garters up here.
He literally went there to ask why he wasn't being paid in gold coins.
Crazy. This ain't money. Money you can bite.
And this is 1940.
Guy, you know about money.
Sir, there is a war going on.
Sir, there's a war. Men are being sent to their young men are being sent to their deaths. You, and I feel justified in saying this, you coot. You wily old coot.
Oh, he's definitely a coot.
You get back on your tornado and you fly back where you came from, fella.
Gimlet vowed to visit every member of Congress to get his answers if it was necessary. While in D.C., Gimlet was refused a room at one of the city's premier hotels. He'd wanted to stay in the room where H.A.W. Tabor, who, if you've lived in Colorado for a long time, haunts the state.
Yep.
former senator of Colorado, had slept in 1883. Indignant at being turned away, the hermit said, I want to sleep in the room old Hot Tabor used.
Whoa.
But back here, they look at a man's outside rather than the man himself. I've been saving a year for this trip, and I did kind of want to stay where Hog put up.
Meanwhile, he's gone full Bigfoot. They're just spiders falling from his body. Why won't you let me in?
Yeah, come on. Okay, I'll leave one of the mules outside.
In 1941, however, Gimlet was afforded better treatment by the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad when he was honored as the first passenger to ride the Prospector, a stainless steel train built to ride through the heart of the Rocky Mountains.
Dude, that had to been cool, though. That trip right there.
Sweet.
Probably dope, and
Yeah, that sounds
also potentially a source of money for our friend Jim.
I'm going to head up to the train to Glenwood Springs in the beginning of May, and I will not shut up about this man. And I'm going to be all like, right here, Kylie, this is the same mountains that won Frank E. Gimlet, the Emperor.
The Emperor.
He saw this
Emperor of the
before
Rocky
anyone
Mountains.
else.
You know, some people say he might still be out there. Crazy as a shithouse bat.
Well, they don't so much, but the gold standard wasn't the hermit's only cause for political activism. He was also so infatuated with the actress Ginger Rogers
Uh-oh.
Nice.
That he shot a political figure.
that he petitioned President Roosevelt to rename Mount Etna in her honor.
Bro. She's not gonna fuck you, dude.
Well, we don't know because the president, of course, was like, no, we're definitely not going to do that.
Sir, there is a Zimmerman letter being passed around the U.S. government right now. I don't have time for your nonsense.
Gimlet visited Washington again in 1948 to ask Congress about freezing the price of gold.
Okay.
Which is also fucking crazy.
Truly. I really enjoy how much he's committing to the whole coot bit.
Truly, though, that is not the worst thing.
Yeah.
If we're talking broad economics, the freezing of the gold price would be more beneficial than not.
Hey, look, he's got some
I would
points.
love to see this.
You know, the gold thing is a good point he raises, and you should be able to marry a rock with a wig on.
Now go back to the gold standard. No, but
Nope.
he should be paid in gold if he wants.
Yeah. And the rock wife thing as well. He should be allowed to have his rock wife. Come on, Matilda. It's my birthday. Sorry.
He ends up stopping by New York City.
Hey, that's where they make all that salsa.
He made
New York City.
Mm-hmm.
He made the journey again. He went to. It just says the top of a skyscraper. I'm not sure what.
Okay.
That would
1940, probably the Chrysler Building.
Yeah, is he just bragging at this point? I've been up a skyscraper.
Oh.
I think it predates the Empire State Building. It might not.
He's up tall. He's seen something man hasn't seen before outside of getting to the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he's infatuated with the looking over a industry being industry, I guess.
Sure.
On his journey back to Colorado in February of 1950, Frank Gimlet, then 84 years old, was riding the Chicago-St. Louis train when he suffered a stroke. The prospector landed in a hospital in Joliet, Illinois, home of
The Fighting Muskrats.
Wayne Campbell?
both of them, yeah.
He's from Cicero, and I'm from Wilmette.
I was going to say the Blues Brothers.
Okay, also good.
But that's actually just the prison.
Listen, prison changes a man. I used to be born in Colorado, but after the prison, I'm from what's that call it? Ken Carlson? I don't know.
Ken Carroll?
County.
There's a prison in Colorado, and I forgot what it's called, but Billy the Kid was in prison there.
Yeah, Kit Carson.
So was one of our friends, Rick Bryan, who said that the old parts of that prison are still like up. People stay in there. They don't stay in there, but you got to deal with it and shit. Well, and he said he's not a believer in ghosts, Rick, but he says that part of the prison was the most evil presence he's ever felt in his whole life.
Yeah, that's not terribly surprising.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
A lot of vault energy if we bring it back to the first, the last segment. Energy. Yeah.
BVE.
Well, here's one of the most fun sentences you'll probably hear today. His money belt, when removed by hospital staff, was filled with gold nuggets.
Sick.
Awesome.
Yeah. Not only did he have a money belt,
it was filled with his favorite currency, gold nuggets.
Gold nuggets. Upon regaining consciousness, Gimlet's first request was for his pipe. After a short stay in the hospital, Gimlet checked himself out, claiming the doctors were wrong about his stroke and he was fine.
Half of his face just drooping. You're all wrong.
He then, of course,
walking in a circle,
did die shortly thereafter on February 5th.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, buddy, here's the thing. Doctors, they usually know about that kind of stuff. They're kind of right about it a lot. Certainly not as right as a crazy old coot would be, but...
Look, coots have, in theory, he, at one point, had $100,000 in gold coin.
It's true. It's got that coot strength. Bonus to field medicine, too.
You get it from eating all that gold.
Mm-hmm. My gold!
You can also, if you so choose, visit Salida and see his burial ground in Fairview Cemetery.
Oh, interesting.
That's really cool. I love visiting tombs.
Well, he went out with his boots on, as they say.
All right, so let's do
another hermit, and we'll call it a day.
One more, and I'll let you choose.
I think I could hermit.
I don't think I could. I'm a city boy.
I mean, if I had like an internet connection, I could hermit pretty good.
Right, so there's a bunch to choose from, but let's go between the man who fell to earth, he killed Paul Bunyan, and Chicken Johnny.
Mine is definitely the middle one, the guy who killed Paul Bunyan, please.
What about, I might be getting this very wrong, but what about the blue ox? Was it not there to save him?
See, I think that's the one we would like to select. We have questions about that.
I've got so many questions, and I'm glad that is the right person.
Yeah. No, that was right. You did it.
Good. I am passing as a human American person.
Yep. What does that mean?
Nothing.
Compass, huh? Roger says it compass. We were talking about it earlier.
All right, this is about the Hermit of North Lake, New York.
Hey, okay.
Atwell Martin.
All right, that is a fucking New York ass name. He's no Hidalgo, but pretty cool name.
He was both a figure in and teller of tall tales.
Just
he
like
apparently
Hidalgo. Sorry.
He was the subject of a Ripley's Believe It or Not comic strip in the 1960s.
Nice. That is a weird badge of honor for me.
It's a very strange thing to have.
This strange man had
Above and
sex with a
beyond
badger.
Hermit.
Do you believe it?
Martin was a wilderness guide who lived alone in a wigwam cabin, which, if you look at it, it's just like an A-frame building.
Okay.
That they're calling a wigwam cabin. At the headwaters of the Black River. In his youth, Martin fell in love with a woman, but at the request of his mother, delayed asking for his sweetheart's hand in marriage in order to help his parents as they aged. By the time Martin's parents died, his love interest had married another. Martin swore off women, and after selling his parents' property, headed to the woods for a life of solitude.
There you go.
Sometime around the year 1850.
What else do you need, man?
Myself? That's about it.
That's it.
That would make me happy in a weird way.
The woods will provide the rest.
They will, as a former Boy Scout who got to do that, like, just see if you can survive. We'll be here to protect you, but, like, have
You'll know
fun.
how to eat. You'll know how to drink water. Having fun is a different thing. Maybe you can make a PlayStation out of coconut.
They come back to check on you. The Eagle Scouts are like, he's changed.
He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to leave. He's talking about making a trip to Washington to see what he's going to use for money.
He got way too many badges that he made himself.
He's making his own badges. He's made his own language. He's writing in it. That's on the badges.
It's been 3 days.
He got a badge for it. He gave himself a badge for it. Gave me a badge. I don't know what it's for. It just has a date in the future on it. I'm terrified.
Then he whispered, shh.
Yeah. He's really doing it. Is there something above Eagle Scout? Some sort of predator you can't see? Because that's what.
Yeah, Hermit.
The Hermit Scout. That is truly the end. Really, you get to Eagle Scout, and the next step is just Hermit.
Well, and in a kind of weird thing, like, people loved to talk about hermits, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
He's listed as a guide in Wallace's Guide to the Adirondacks from 1872, and there's photos of him in his, quote, wigwam cabin, but virtually everything else we know about the man seems to be comprised of tall tales varying in height. One of the more believable accounts has Liv Bronson, the pipe-smoking wife of a local logger,
Nice.
stopping by Martin's place with her sister one night.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the way to visit her husband at a logging camp when night fell, so they decided to stop at Martin's woodshed to spend the night, not wanting anyone to think untoward thoughts. He, of course, locked the women in the shed, and despite their protests, slid the key under the door and promised he would let them out in the morning.
Oh, so a
So
regular
he's a
episode of
fucking
SVU.
psycho. Yeah.
Lord.
I like how the first Hermit was generally a fun, happy-going man, and
Yeah,
this
and
one's...
this guy has instantly kidnapped 2 women. One of them the wife of a friend.
He evidently let them out.
Evidently, huh? That's not that we don't have confirmation on that.
You know, It's the late 1800s. I can't say for sure. He was known for his appetite, and on one occasion, some hunters who had hired him as a guide decided to test his stomach. After eating a large breakfast of pork side and flapjacks, the hunter suggested that he should eat lunch then and there, saving them from stopping later on the trail. Martin agreed. The cook prepared another heaping plate of food, and the hermit happily ingested all the pork and flapjacks. Somewhat bemused.
Yeah, he just like me for real.
Somewhat bemused, the cook then suggested they could save more time by eating supper as well, noting that they would then be free from stopping for any meals that day. Martin agreed. Another helping of flapjacks and pork was passed his way, which he gobbled happily.
Hell yeah.
However, Martin then curled up into a ball, pulled his covers over him, and declared, "I always go to bed after supper."
Not me. I start the day with supper and on a good breakfast.
Yeah, I wake up to a full 3-course roast beef meal. It sucks.
The hunters...
Soup. Hot soup first thing in the morning. Followed by the roast beef. Go ahead.
Thinking their day was over, were about to give up on their guide, but the cook simply prepared another plate of flapjacks and pork side, and then woke Martin up telling him it was time for breakfast.
This is a great bit. This feels like some fucking Buster Poindexter shit. This is like a Far Side comic.
Martin finished off the fourth plate of food and led the hunters off into the woods. Martin's hunting prowess was likewise the subject of legend. According to the hermit, one morning he saw a deer swimming in the lake near his home.
Okay.
Grabbing his rifle, he shot the deer through the neck.
Okay.
As the bullet passed through the ungulate, a large salmon leapt from the water, which the bullet pierced as well, before flying off through the woods. After collecting the deer and the salmon, Martin decided to follow the trail of the bullet, which had left blazes on the trees as it passed through the forest. As he traced the bullet's trail, he came upon 3 partridges, each with a single bullet wound. Following the projectile's path further, he found a bullet hole in a hollow tree from which honey was oozing.
Good Lord.
As he was sampling the honey, a curious rabbit hopped out of the bush, which Martin grabbed with his bare hands.
And that one, well, I just grabbed that one.
Yeah, he just kind of twisted his neck. Finally, he found the bullet of fat raccoons. Finally, he found the bullet had lodged in the bark of another tree, the hollow of which housed a nest of fat raccoons.
What? So he took.
So one bullet is taken down, like 9.
Right. But presumably
things.
this is all, like what a lucky day. This is all bounty for him to collect. And the raccoons, I imagine, are going to be made into hats or something, huh?
Running with his prey, the hermit found a black bear and cub nosing around the tree, which was leaking honey.
Uh-oh.
So he added the Bruins to the list. One shot led to a deer, a salmon, a cache of honey, 3 partridges, a rabbit, an unspecified quantity of raccoons, a bear, and a cub.
You said that all those other sentences were pretty good, but this one's a really good one.
Another story had Martin killing an entire wolf pack with his bare hands.
Like hunting them?
Sure. What did they do? Anything? Did they cross him in any way, or was it completely unfounded?
They showed up and were wolves.
Yeah, that's kind of how I figured that was going to go. So I love it. I love a tall tale. This guy is, a tall talesman.
And the tallest of tales.
Yeah.
The most impressive story about Martin was the tale of his encounter with the giant lumberjack Paul Bunyan.
Now, these days, they just call a guy like that a liar. Back then, it's a folk hero.
Well, they bought various things from him.
Sure.
It was said that Bunyan heard rumors of Atwell Martin and decided to head east to meet the other living legend, which is hilarious because there is zero chance that before this book was published, anybody knew who the fuck Atwell Martin was. While the two woodsmen got along well at first, eventually their tempers turned. A fight broke out between the two, during which trees were uprooted to use as clubs. The confrontation ended with Martin killing the giant Bunyan.
Okay, so Martin is in this tale said, this is back when I was 100, 200 feet tall.
Yeah, I think he's just a regular-sized guy.
Yeah, I know you guys are looking at me with your two eyes right now while we're eating pork and flapjacks and that I'm just a regular-sized guy, but that's because I was shrunk by a witch. Good night.
What's more horrifying, a Paul Bunyan-sized man who can just use a tree ripped out of the earth as a club, or a normal-sized man who does the same thing?
Yeah. Okay.
Some
fair,
saber-tooth motherfucker.
Fair. Good point. You draw a good point.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Atwell Martin died in 1889, spending his last days in a poorhouse.
Oh. Well, that part made me sad. I was hoping
he did kidnap two women.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm happy again. I was
and he
hoping that
murdered Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
A living legend.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. Fuck him. Well, folks, that does it for this episode of Werewolf Radar. And what an episode it was. Nate, thank you so much for those hermits. You listeners, thank you so much for your continued support of the show. If you really liked what you hear, check us out on patreon.com/Werewolf Radar, where you can support us over there. You can check out our YouTube channel, Twitch. We're out here playing games. I'm gonna start streaming again. I got lots of games I want to play all of a sudden. And I want to do it.
I need to see you play them.
Shout out to Chuck from Snappy Little Numbers for our intro and outro song. And shout out to you, the listener, for giving us 5 stars wherever 5 stars can be located. Please tell your friends about the pod. We love you. We miss you. Until next time, as ever, our sign-off line on the count of 3. Please join me. 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky!
Spaceman Joe.
You know, Spaceman Joe's kind of a hermit.